In the ever-shifting landscape of global politics, certain developments have the potential to completely redraw the map of influence and power. In Israel's recent recognition of Somaliland is one of those tectonic shifts. For decades, the Horn of Africa has been a region of complex alliances, unspoken rivalries, and strategic significance. And this recognition has sent shockwaves through both the regional players and the wider international community. Somaliland, a self-declared independent state in northern Somalia, has long operated in a liminal space, neither fully recognized by the United Nations nor completely ignored by the world. Yet maintaining a relatively stable and functional governance structure in comparison to the turbulence that has often engulfed Somalia, Israel's move to recognize Somaliland is not merely a diplomatic formality. It is a signal of shifting priorities, new alliances, and a potential reconfiguration of geopolitical influence in the Horn of Africa. For Israel, a country that has historically sought to strengthen ties with countries in Africa to counter regional adversaries, this recognition offers a strategic foothold on the Gulf of Aden, a vital maritime route that links the Middle East to the Indian Ocean and global trade networks. This is not just about political symbolism. It is about securing influence over a region that is critical for maritime security, intelligence gathering, and energy supply lines, all while countering the influence of rival powers such as Iran, Turkey, and even the UAE, each of which has been actively cultivating relationships across the Horn. For Somaliland, the recognition by Israel brings legitimacy, investment opportunities, and the promise of security cooperation that could further solidify its de facto independence from Mogadishu. The economic implications are significant. Israel's advanced technology, agricultural innovation, security expertise can be channeled into Somaliland's growth. It's transforming a semi-isolated region into a potential hub for trade and investment in East Africa. However, this move is a powder keg for Somalia's already fragile political landscape. Somalia's government, which has long asserted sovereignty over Somaliland, views this recognition as a direct challenge, an undermining of its territorial integrity, and a dangerous precedent that could encourage other states to bypass Somalia's central authority. Internally, this could exacerbate tensions between the federal government and regional actors, embolden separatist movements, and destabilize fragile peace agreements that have been painstakingly negotiated over decades. Moreover, the wider African Union, which has historically resisted unilateral recognitions of secessionist regions to prevent a domino effect across the continent, is now confronted with a complex dilemma: to condemn Israel's move and risk alienating a key international partner, or to remain cautious and diplomatic while quietly managing the fallout. On the ground, the implications are even more immediate. Trade routes that have long been contested, ports that have been underdeveloped due to political uncertainty, and security arrangements against piracy and terrorism are now all subject to a new calculus. Israel's involvement in Somaliland may also provoke reactions from neighboring states like Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Kenya, which are keenly aware of the strategic value of the region and wary of any imbalance in influence. The interplay between local governance, clan dynamics, and international interest creates a scenario where even minor miscalculations could spiral into broader conflict. Beyond the Horn, this move is being closely watched by global powers, the United States, which maintains strategic interests in both Israel and Somalia, now faces a delicate balancing act. On one hand, supporting Israel aligns with long-standing strategic partnerships in the Middle East. But on the other hand, ignoring Somalia's territorial claims risks undermining stability in a region that has historically been a source of terrorism, migration crises, and maritime security challenges. Similarly, China, which has been heavily investing in port infrastructure across East Africa under its Belt and Road Initiative, sees both a threat and an opportunity. A strengthened Somaliland, backed by Israel, could offer alternative ports for international trade and naval logistics, potentially challenging China's influence in the region. Russia, Turkey, and the Gulf states are also recalibrating their strategies, weighing the benefits of engaging with Somaliland against the risks of inflaming tensions in Mogadishu. On the diplomatic front, the recognition introduces a new layer of negotiation and leverage. Somaliland gains a partner with significant technological and military capability, while Israel secures allies in a region where its presence has been limited. But this partnership comes with responsibilities. Somaliland must navigate the fine line between benefiting from international recognition and provoking open confrontation with Somalia, which could lead to economic blockades, cyber conflicts, or even proxy skirmishes facilitated by rival regional powers. The social and humanitarian dimensions cannot be ignored either. Somalia is already grappling with internal displacement, famine, and governance crises. Any escalation of tensions over Somaliland could divert attention and resources away from these pressing issues, potentially deepening human suffering. International aid organizations and NGOs now face the challenge of recalibrating their strategies in a politically charged environment where the rules of engagement are rapidly changing. As we analyze this geopolitical bombshell, it becomes clear that Israel's recognition of Somaliland is more than a bilateral diplomatic maneuver. It is a catalyst that could reshape the Horn of Africa's political, economic, and security landscape. The move challenges traditional alliances, tests the resilience of Somali statehood, and introduces a complex web of regional and global interests that will play out over the coming years. Every decision, every policy adjustment, and every strategic deployment in response to this recognition will have cascading effects, potentially altering the balance of power in a region that has historically been both a crossroads of civilizations and a hotbed of conflict. In conclusion, the Israel-Somaliland recognition is not an isolated event. It is a transformative development that reverberates through the corridors of power from Mogadishu to Jerusalem, from Washington to Beijing. Its consequences will be felt not only in diplomatic circles but on the streets, ports, and borders of East Africa, and understanding its implications is crucial for anyone following the unfolding story of Somalia's future. The delicate interplay of sovereignty, international law, and realpolitik ensures that this is only the beginning of a high-stakes saga whose outcome remains uncertain, yet undeniably consequential. The recognition of Somaliland by Israel is not merely a diplomatic milestone. It is a pivot point that redefines the strategic chessboard of the Horn of Africa and challenges long-standing assumptions about sovereignty, alliances, and regional stability. To fully understand the implications of this move, one must first grasp the delicate balance of power in Somalia itself. For decades, Somalia has struggled with internal fragmentation, weak governance, and violent insurgencies, particularly from groups such as Al-Shabaab, whose influence has extended across southern and central Somalia. Somaliland, by contrast, has maintained relative stability, functioning government, and even democratic elections, albeit in a state of unrecognized independence. Israel's decision to recognize Somaliland therefore elevates a local entity that has long been sidelined in international diplomacy, effectively legitimizing its claim to self-governance and challenging the narrative of Somalia as a unified state. This recognition is likely to embolden Somaliland's leadership, giving it greater leverage in negotiations with Mogadishu and in dealings with other international actors. However, the move also carries inherent risks. Somalia's federal government has historically been sensitive to any actions that might imply the erosion of its territorial claims, and this recognition could provoke political maneuvering, including increased militarization of disputed areas or attempts to disrupt Somaliland's international engagements. In this context, the international response becomes a key factor. The African Union, which has long emphasized the inviolability of existing borders to prevent cascading secessionist movements across the continent, faces a diplomatic dilemma. Condemning Israel outright risks alienating a major international player, while tacit acceptance could encourage similar unilateral recognitions elsewhere, potentially destabilizing other regions with ongoing territorial disputes. Moreover, neighboring states such as Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Kenya must recalibrate their foreign policy strategies, as any shift in Somaliland's status could influence cross-border trade, security alliances, and regional economic integration. Ethiopia, in particular, has a vested interest in the stability of the Somali-inhabited regions and has historically acted as a mediator in Somali political disputes. An empowered Somaliland with backing from Israel introduces a new dynamic, potentially complicating Ethiopia's balancing act between its own security concerns and broader regional stability. On a global scale, Israel's recognition also signals a reorientation of its foreign policy priorities. Traditionally focused on the Middle East, Israel has been increasingly active in Africa, leveraging trade, technology, and security partnerships to strengthen its international position. Somaliland offers Israel a strategic foothold on the Gulf of Aden, a critical maritime corridor that facilitates international shipping and energy transport. This position not only enhances Israel's geopolitical leverage, but also enables intelligence cooperation, surveillance capabilities, and potential military partnerships that could extend Israel's influence far beyond its immediate neighborhood. Economically, Africa. The ripple effects of this decision extend far beyond immediate diplomatic circles, touching on economic, military, and social dimensions that will shape the region for decades. One of the most immediate impacts is on Somalia's domestic political environment. The federal government in Mogadishu has always struggled to assert authority over its constituent regions, relying on fragile alliances with clan leaders, local militias, and international partners. Somaliland's elevated international recognition challenges this precarious balance of power, providing legitimacy to a self-governing entity that has long operated outside the central authority's control. This shift emboldens other regional actors within Somalia, potentially inspiring Puntland and other semi-autonomous states to pursue greater autonomy or even secessionist ambitions, thereby amplifying internal fragmentation. The recognition also has significant implications for Somalia's security dynamics. May inadvertently draw militant attention toward the north, creating new security challenges that could disrupt counterterrorism operations and humanitarian missions. In addition, the international community faces a delicate balancing act. Alternative ports in Somaliland could compete with Chinese-controlled ports in Djibouti and Berbera, influencing global shipping lanes and economic leverage. Russia and Turkey, along with Gulf powers like the UAE and Qatar, are also assessing how to adjust their strategies. Each is considering whether to strengthen ties with Somaliland to counter Israel's influence or to engage more deeply with Somalia to protect their own regional interests. Economically, Israel's recognition offers Somaliland opportunities that have long been out of reach. Israeli expertise in technology, agriculture, water management, and renewable energy can help transform Somaliland into a regional hub of trade and innovation. Ports like Berbera, already strategically located along the Gulf of Aden, could attract investment and facilitate international trade, giving Somaliland a unique advantage in East African commerce. However, economic development is inextricably linked to political stability. Any missteps by Somaliland or heavy-handed responses from Mogadishu could deter investment, create trade disruptions, and threaten the fragile prosperity of the region. Military cooperation between Israel and Somaliland is another critical factor, shaping the emerging regional balance. Moreover, the social ramifications are profound. Somalia already faces significant humanitarian challenges, including widespread displacement, famine, and clan-based conflicts. Political instability and increased regional tensions could exacerbate these crises, diverting attention and resources away from essential aid programs. International organizations and NGOs must navigate an increasingly complex environment, balancing the need to provide humanitarian relief with the political sensitivities arising from new alliances and territorial disputes. The recognition of Somaliland also forces a reconsideration of African Union policies on secession and territorial integrity. Traditionally, the EU has resisted unilateral recognitions to prevent a domino effect across the continent. But Israel's move challenges this principle. African governments may be forced to reevaluate their positions on regional autonomy, separatist movements, and foreign involvement, potentially leading to a reconfiguration of diplomatic norms and practices. From a broader strategic perspective, the Horn of Africa is entering a phase where multiple global and regional actors are vying for influence simultaneously. Israel's presence, backed by recognition and potential military cooperation, adds a new dimension to this complex contest. Neighboring states, such as Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Kenya must adjust their policies to account for the changing balance of power, particularly in trade, security, and intelligence collaboration. Ethiopia, with its historical involvement in Somali politics and its own internal Somali region, faces particularly delicate choices. The country must weigh the benefits of engaging with an empowered Somaliland against the risks of emboldening separatist sentiments within its borders. On the maritime front, Israel's engagement in Somaliland carries significant implications for shipping lanes and port security. The Gulf of Aden is a critical corridor for international trade, and Somaliland's ports could serve as alternative hubs for shipping and logistics. This strategic positioning allows Israel to influence maritime security, monitor regional developments, and project power into a vital global trade network. The implications extend beyond regional dynamics, potentially affecting global shipping routes, energy transport, and naval strategies of major powers. Furthermore, media narratives and public perception play a pivotal role in shaping the geopolitical outcome. Israel's recognition is interpreted differently by various stakeholders as a diplomatic triumph, a provocative challenge to Somali sovereignty, or a strategic maneuver with far-reaching consequences. These narratives influence policymaking, investor confidence, and public opinion, affecting how regional and global actors respond to emerging developments. The long-term consequences of this recognition are still unfolding. Its ability to leverage international recognition, attract investment, and maintain security will determine whether it can thrive as a semi-autonomous region or whether it will face escalating conflict with Somalia and its allies. In addition, the broader Horn of Africa is entering a period of high-stakes diplomacy, where every decision by regional leaders, international partners, and external powers will reverberate across the continent and beyond. The Israel-Somaliland recognition is more than a symbolic gesture. It is a catalyst that challenges established power structures, reshapes alliances, from local governance to international geopolitics. The recognition has triggered a chain reaction that underscores the interconnectedness of political, economic, and security interests. Somaliland's future is now intricately linked to Israel's engagement, Somalia's response, and the broader regional and global environment. Success or failure in navigating this complex landscape will have profound consequences, not just for the Horn of Africa, but for international trade, security cooperation, and diplomatic relations worldwide. In conclusion, the recognition of Somaliland by Israel represents a paradigm shift with cascading effects across multiple domains. It challenges Somali sovereignty, empowers a semi-autonomous region, and introduces new strategic calculations for global and regional powers alike. As the Horn of Africa grapples with these developments, the region stands at a crossroads, a place where opportunities for economic growth, stability, and enhanced international cooperation exist alongside significant risks of conflict, fragmentation, and geopolitical tension. Understanding this intricate web of influences is essential for anyone seeking to follow the unfolding saga of Somaliland, Somalia, and the broader Horn of Africa. The next few years will be decisive, shaping not only the fate of these territories but also the strategic calculations of Israel, Somalia, neighboring states, and global powers. In a high-stakes game of diplomacy, economics, and security that will resonate far beyond the region's borders, as the dust settles on Israel's groundbreaking recognition of Somaliland, the long-term implications for Somalia, the Horn of Africa, and global geopolitics are only beginning to crystallize. This is not merely a bilateral diplomatic maneuver. It is a catalyst for profound regional transformation that will reshape alliances, economic networks, and security dynamics for years to come. At the heart of this shift is the delicate interplay between Somaliland, ES newfound legitimacy, and Somalia's historically fragile federal system. Mogadishu now faces a monumental challenge, reconciling its claim to sovereignty over Somaliland with the reality that international recognition, investment, and security cooperation are bolstering a region that has long operated outside its control. This tension is likely to manifest in both political maneuvering and strategic posturing, as Somalia seeks to assert authority while avoiding a full-blown conflict that could destabilize the broader region. The strategic calculus extends beyond Somalia's borders. Neighboring states such as Ethiopia, Kenya, and Djibouti are closely monitoring the situation, assessing how Somaliland's empowerment may shift regional dynamics. Ethiopia, with its own Somali-inhabited regions and vested interest in Horn of Africa stability, faces a particularly delicate balancing act. It must weigh the benefits of potentially closer cooperation with Somaliland against the risk of encouraging separatist tendencies within its borders. Kenya, with its economic and security interests in Somalia, also faces complex choices in calibrating its response, while Djibouti must consider how shifts in port dynamics could affect regional trade and investment. Israel's engagement further complicates this landscape. Beyond mere recognition, Israel offers Somaliland advanced technology, military training, intelligence cooperation, and investment. Opportunities that could significantly elevate its status and capabilities. This partnership allows Israel to establish a strategic foothold on the Gulf of Aden, a key maritime corridor that has historically been critical for global trade and naval operations. The geopolitical implications are significant. Somaliland becomes a linchpin in a network of alliances that could challenge or complement existing regional power structures. Economically, the recognition and ensuing partnerships open unprecedented opportunities for Somaliland. Investment in ports, infrastructure, and trade corridors has the potential to transform the region into a hub of commerce, logistics, and innovation. Israeli expertise in agriculture, water management, renewable energy, and technology transfer could catalyze development, creating employment, boosting productivity, and attracting global investors seeking alternatives to traditionally unstable Somali territories. Yet these opportunities are tightly interwoven with political risk. Increased international engagement may provoke Somalia, intensify internal divisions, or trigger rivalries with other regional powers seeking influence in the Horn of Africa. The delicate balance between growth and stability will define whether Somaliland ascent leads to prosperity or conflict. Somaliland's cooperation with Israel has the potential to reshape security calculations in the Horn, intelligence sharing, defense training, and advanced technologies strengthen Somaliland's capacity to protect itself from both internal and external threats. At the same time, these developments may provoke competitive responses from Somalia and neighboring states, potentially sparking a regional arms dynamic or localized conflicts that could escalate into broader confrontations. Weighing the benefits of engaging with Somaliland against the risk of destabilizing Somalia and the broader region. Humanitarian and social factors are equally significant. Somalia is home to widespread displacement, famine, and socioeconomic fragility.
Isolation
of political tensions related to Somaliland could exacerbate these crises, diverting attention and resources from essential aid programs. NGOs and international organizations must now navigate a complex environment where geopolitical interests, investment opportunities, and security considerations intersect, ensuring that aid delivery and development projects are not disrupted by political disputes. The broader implications for African governance are also notable. The African Union's long-standing principle of respecting existing borders is now tested by Israel's unilateral recognition of Somaliland. Other regions with separatist movements are closely observing the precedent set by this recognition, which may influence calls for autonomy, self-determination, or international legitimacy elsewhere on the continent. From a global perspective, the Horn of Africa is increasingly becoming a focal point for strategic competition. Each actor is recalibrating its strategy in response to Somaliland's recognition, seeking to maximize influence while minimizing the risk of conflict. Shipping lanes, trade routes, energy supply lines, and maritime security are all intertwined with these geopolitical considerations, demonstrating the global stakes of what might otherwise appear as a regional development. The domestic political landscape within Somaliland will also undergo transformation. With increased international recognition and investment, local governance will face heightened expectations for transparency, accountability, and effective service delivery. The population, empowered by new economic opportunities and security assurances, may demand further reforms, better infrastructure, and improved social services. Successfully navigating these internal dynamics will be critical to maintaining stability and demonstrating that international partnerships can translate into tangible benefits for citizens. In conclusion, the recognition of Somaliland by Israel represents a historic geopolitical pivot, with ramifications that extend across the Horn of Africa and into the wider world. It challenges Somalia's sovereignty, empowers a semi-autonomous region, and reshapes regional alliances and economic networks. The interplay between political ambition, economic opportunity, and security cooperation ensures that the coming years will be decisive, determining whether the region moves towards stability and prosperity or faces further fragmentation and conflict. For international observers, policymakers, and investors, the developments in Somaliland offer a window into the evolving dynamics of power, influence, and opportunity in a region that has long been both strategically vital and geopolitically complex. As this high-stakes story unfolds, one thing is clear: Somaliland's future. Somalia's stability and the balance of influence in the Horn of Africa are now inexorably linked to decisions made far beyond their borders. If you found this analysis insightful and want to stay updated on more hidden geopolitical developments, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. The story of Israel, Somaliland, and Somalia is far from over, and we'll be here bringing you the latest insights and analysis as it unfolds.